Hey everybody, it's Josh Rutledge, your co-host for FearScape Paranormal Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to support us more, please head over to our website, FearScapePodcast.com. There you can click on store and browse some really awesome t-shirts and maybe pick a couple up, or even go to our Patreon page and see how you can support us monthly. We love bringing you awesome content just as much as you like listening to it. Enjoy the show.
Hello. I'm so glad you could join us. I hope you brought your blanket to hide under. The spooky crew is going to discuss things and events from other realms. Ghosts, cryptids, aliens. Be sure to hold your blanket extra tight as the boys take you deep into the FearScape.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another tantalizing episode of FearScape Paranormal Podcast. My name is Stefan, and I am your host for the evening, and I am joined, as usual, by my artistically, genuinely, debonair co-host, Mr. Josh Rutledge. How are you today?
That's a lot better than last week.
Lumpishly?
Yeah.
I liked it. My wife thought it was hilarious. But yeah, no, I'm really excited. You tend to change shapes every time I see you here. This is a lead-in to our topic for the evening, which is shapeshifters. We're going to be talking about shapeshifters of many kinds and all that jazz. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in, as usual, here to FearScape on the Destination Nation Network. And we are going to get into some spooky news before we get going. I've got a very interesting story for you.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, let's jump right into spooky news. All right, so this week on Spooky News, I have a story that comes from CNN.com, but I've been finding it on a bunch of other things. But the headline is, "Aliens definitely exist, and they could be living among us, according to Britain's first astronaut." So Britain's first astronaut has said that aliens definitely exist, and it's possible that they're living among us on Earth, but have gone undetected so far. Helen Sharman, who visited the Soviet Mir space station in 1991, told the Observer newspaper on Sunday that aliens exist. There's no two ways about it. So I'm sure she said, aliens exist. There's no two ways about it.
And then she had some tea and crumpets.
Yeah. There are so many billions of stars out there, she said, in the universe that there must be all sorts of different forms of life. Will they be like you and me, made up of carbon and nitrogen? Maybe not. So then, in a tantalizing theory that should probably make you very suspicious of your colleagues, Sharman added, "It's possible that they're here right now, and we simply cannot see them." Just a quick heads up about Sharman. She was one of the first of 7 Britons to ever enter space, not through the space ladder that Eddie Izzard once made famous. Sharman became the first Briton in space in 1992. She spent 8 days as a researcher on a space mission when she was 27, making her not only one of the first Britons, but one of the youngest people to ever enter orbit. And so we know that we've got NASA rovers on Mars looking for evidence of past and present life forms, but our endless fascination with extraterrestrial life forms has so far proved fruitless. But Sharman is not the only person to speculate that we've had brushes with aliens. Even a former Pentagon official who led a secret government program to research UFOs revealed in 2017 that he believes there is evidence of alien life reaching Earth. Elsewhere in her interview, Sharman said that there is no greater beauty than looking at the Earth from up high. So very, very interesting. And, she said that she believes that they're here already and have been here.
Well, there's a standing theory that that they are here from, like meteors that have hit the Earth.
Right. Yeah, they could have evolved.
Right. That it's carried over time, 165 million years ago that wiped out the dinosaurs.
Right.
That meteorite carried some stagnant life that was reactivated at the time.
It could be us.
Well, yeah.
You know, I mean, we weren't around before the dinosaurs,
right, exactly.
so.
Well, we were aware they were on the ark.
Yeah. Yep. Amen. And yeah, so that's my spooky news for today. I'm really interested in that. I like that idea that they've always been here, even before we got here. So
Yeah.
I think that's just very, very interesting. It really could really show how technologically advanced they are if they were coming via spaceship or things
Yep.
like that. So
Yeah.
very interesting.
And
But yeah, any other thoughts on that?
Well, it ties back into our episode from last week around Hellier, which is around that whole kind of ultra terrestrial.
Yeah, the ultra terrestrials
that are already kind of been here the whole time.
Right. I mean, just like you said about the meteorite, the DNA things there could be the missing link.
Who knows?
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move right into creepy catch-up.
Creepy ketchup. Creepy ketchup. Creepy ketchup. Creepy ketchup. Y'all, it's creepy.
All right. So I've got two stories. I got a funny one and a real one, but you also said you had kind of a minor creepy catch-up, so a little more mystic mustard.
Yeah,
Right.
Or mayonnaise, whichever.
Yeah, or
whichever you
Jeff
like,
sauce.
whatever you like to put on your hot dog.
Whatever. Yeah.
So mine is really, I mean, I'm gonna sound a little hung up on this, but mine is really around Hellier.
What?
Yeah, I know. It just really has. I've been rewatching it with my wife, and it's just like stuff that I didn't necessarily see before, connections before I see now. And so one of the things that they said in second season, again, spoiler if you haven't seen it, I apologize, but Carl does a session where they like put him under and he's talking to something, and they ask for a sign, and the whoever he's talking to, the entity says that you'll get there'll be an explosion.
Right.
And they'll say, well, how will we know that it's you? And they say, well, you'll know. Well, so Tuesday, I think, Neil deGrasse Tyson posted on Twitter that Betelgeuse, the star in the Orion constellation, is in the process of going supernova.
No, he's on his way here. Somebody must have called him 3 times.
Yeah.
So
So which is a huge explosion.
it's a huge
so that's
explosion.
It's just, I feel like I'm like, I don't know, in the phenomena. I mean, it's just like it's surrounding me. So that's my creepy catch-up. It's just like I'm just.
It's you're part of that synchronicity that they talk about. So am I. You just open your eyes, you're seeing everything now, and so am I. But yeah, it's very, very interesting. And of course, I'm always like, well, don't they say that the light that we see is from billions of years ago? It's like, so if this is about to happen, it already happened, right?
Yeah, but
it's
to
still
know that we wouldn't have seen it until now.
exactly. So, but who knows?
Yeah.
Let me give you my. I'll save my funny one to the end.
Okay.
I'll save my funny one to the end. I've recently moved to a new house. It's my wife's parents' house. They're on not honeymoon, but on retirement. It's their second honeymoon, as they call it, their funny moon. It's 3 months in Florida. They're snowbirding, and so we're taking over their home while we're selling ours. And I've already had a number of experiences in that basement, man. Like, I'm down there, and I'm feeling somebody tapping on my shoulder. I can feel somebody breathing on my neck. I mean
the house is what, 50s? Built in the 50s, probably?
No, I think my wife said that there was only one owner before them. Now, granted, they've had the house since the early 80s, so who knows how long it's been. But still, I mean, it's a fairly new house, but it's just like we said. We don't know what happened on that property before it became a house, and they don't know what happened in that house when the people lived there.
And I think I know where it is. It's close to Iroquois Park, which Iroquois Park is named for Iroquois Indians. So
it is. It is indeed very close. It's very close to your old house.
Yeah. So who knows what was there before?
Yeah. I've definitely had some experiences. I haven't felt anything evil or anything along those lines, but I can definitely feel a presence that is saying, "Hey, I'm here." As of yet, I've only experienced it in the basement. In a couple of different areas and different things like that. So, not like super spooky, like I got punched or anything like that, and no night hags. That kind of ended after that. That usually happens once I talk about it. It goes away. But this is a lead-in to my funny one.
Okay.
So I'm downstairs, and I'm already thinking. I'm like, oh my gosh, who died here? Did something happen? Because I'm
Right.
already having these things kind of happen to me.
Right.
So I'm already spooking myself out. No one's there except for me and my wife. She's upstairs doing something. And I go upstairs and I'm in the zone. I'm in the
Yep.
spooky zone, man. And I open the door to the bathroom and I see a boot. And I scream. And I fully open the door and it is a full-bodied cardboard cutout of Data from Star Trek The Next Generation that her mother put in there to scare me.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it absolutely worked. I screamed so loud because I was already in the spooky mood. I was thinking about it, and I see this boot. And here's the thing. I swear I heard something move in the bathroom, too. And the door was closed, so I knew it wasn't the cats. And so I was already, it kind of pushed that adrenaline already a little bit more. And then I was like, I screamed so loud.
Oh, my God.
And
that's
my
awesome.
roommate, Paul, laughed. He goes, dude, what are you talking about? You shouldn't have been scared. It's Data. You know that phaser was set to stun.
That's awesome.
So that happened to me. That's my funny, creepy catch up. But I mean, I got the willy shook out of me, man. Because I saw that boot and I was like, oh man. So, but yeah, that's creepy catch up. Let's get into our topic. Lord have mercy.
So I did want to ask you, your night hags that you've had, have you ever thought about setting up a camera and recording yourself and just to see what you get?
I have, especially because both the wife and I both talk in our sleeps, and I've done some of those apps where I've listened to myself talking and things like that, and it's like if you turn a certain way, it misses it, and I'm a tosser and turner.
Yeah.
But I've thought about doing the camera, and I guess now I can because we have a different camera we use for improv, so I don't need the space on it. It's not a bad idea, though. My wife would be like, what you trying to do?"
Well, I mean, it's not like you're
don't worry about it, baby. It'll be all right.
it's not like you're broadcasting everything, right?
Yeah,
It's just-
but I think it's a good idea. What I'd like to do is, and I think Brad has started doing this too, because he gets them quite frequently as well, is journaling about it.
Yeah.
And in fact, he hit me up the other day to tell me that his time hop thing on Facebook came up from 10 years ago. The first time he had felt a haunting, where he was just, I mean, it was nuts, the stuff. He was sharing me the screenshots from him. He's like, dude, I forgot about this.
Wow.
And so he's trying to dig up, because he journaled every day
Yeah.
during that time. And so he's trying to go through his storage, trying to find those journals to see if he can look into it. And I had asked him to tell us about it, because his night hags are nutsos. I mean, they come along the lines with the buzzing in the ears and all kinds of crazy stuff.
His is the one that it was perched up on the dresser.
No, that was David's. That was Santosh.
Okay.
Yeah, that Brad's are always kind of hooded, and there always seems to be a white lady that shows up as well, that walks past his door. It's really interesting. Yeah, we'll have to talk about him. Talk about that next time we have him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Shapeshifters, I'm super pumped we're going to be talking about Shapeshifters. There's so many different types. I'm sure we're going to get into some Native American ones, because those are the ones we have already talked about a little bit in the Native American episode.
All over the place.
All over the place.
Just, I mean, all throughout history and everything. So, basically, to start us off here, we've got, so in mythologically, what am I saying here?
Hey, that's good. I like it. Hooked on Phonics worked for Josh, y'all.
In mythology, folklore, and speculative fiction, shape-shifting is the ability to physically transform through an inherently superhuman ability. Divine intervention, demonic manipulation, sorcery, or having inherited the ability. So this demonic manipulation, if you think back a few episodes ago, we were talking about the Wendigo.
Yep.
That was a really prime example around the demonic manipulation.
Yeah, and definitely in possession cases, there's a lot of times that say faces change and grow hair and things like that.
Exactly. So, but the idea of shape-shifting is in the oldest forms of totemism and shamanism, as well as the oldest extant literature and epic poems such as the Epic of Gilgamesh.
I was going to say so.
And the Iliad.
Yeah, which we had talked about the Epic of Gilgamesh, about the werewolf. One of in fact, the first written documentation of a werewolf, right?
So the concept remains a common trope in conspiracy theories, modern fantasy, children's literature and popular culture.
Even music, man. I mean, there's even some songs about it. So
yeah. Well, I mean, there's Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, Beauty and the Beast.
That's
for
a
sure.
very children's tale that. If the original tale, not very child friendly.
No, none of the original tales
Right.
are very child friendly.
Yeah.
But in fact, that was the reason.
Right.
They weren't supposed to be child friendly. They were supposed to be scary stories
Right.
to warn you and to. In fact, a lot of ghost stories come from that. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So we've lost that art of teaching our kids to be scared.
Instead, everything's fun.
Yep.
So, popular shape-shifting creatures in folklore are, of course, werewolves, vampires, mostly of European, Canadian, Native American, early American origin. The Huli Jing of East Asia, the gods and goddesses, demons, numerous mythology. Trying to put extra letters in there, such as the Norse Loki. Proteus.
Yep, those were two I was gonna talk about. Proteus, I mean, is a base word for a lot of protoform, the different things
exactly.
like that. So,
but yeah, so shape shifting to the form of a wolf is especially known as lycanthropy, which we talked about before. Creatures who undergo such a change are called lycanthropes.
or in the underworld movies, lichens.
Yeah, really. Therianthropy. That's what I'm going to go
I'll
with.
take it. I'll take it.
Okay. Is the more general term for human-animal shifts, but it is rarely used in that capacity. It was also common for deities to transform mortals into animals and plants.
Right. A lot of people say that the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland was indeed some sort of deity, as it was able to shape change
interesting.
and do different things.
Yep. So is Gumby, apparently.
Right. I'm Gumby, damn it.
So other terms for shapeshifters are a metamorph, the Navajo.
It's morphin' time.
The Navajo Skinwalker.
Ooh, the Navajo Skinwalker freaks me out, and I can't wait for us to cover Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, I touch on Skinwalker in here just because it is a shapeshifter, but I saved all that for when we actually do the
Skinwalker Ranch. Oh, I'm ready.
Mimic, which you ever see the movie Mimic?
Yeah, we went and saw it at Kenwood Drive-In.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we went and saw it, and then Event Horizon was afterwards.
Yeah, that Event Horizon just...
That was the movie that we thought was just some sci-fi flick.
Right.
We're like, we'll check it out after Mimic, and turns out Event Horizon is now literally in my top 5 favorite movies of all time.
It's a crazy movie.
Oh, I love it.
So the prefix "were" actually comes from Old English, and it means man.
Really?
So I guess
man
wolf.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
But despite its root, it's used to indicate female shapeshifters as well.
Yeah, well, I think the term man being used in terms of humanity.
Right.
So.
Not necessarily masculine.
Right.
But yeah. So let's jump a little bit into some of the examples of shapeshifting across the different areas. So let's start off with Greco-Roman.
Ooh, Olympic.
Yep,
right? So the Olympics, they would turn into wolves and run the race because wolves are faster.
Right. Yeah, that's cheetahs, maybe. So in classical literature, including many examples, like in Ovid's Metamorphosis, Circe's transforming of
Circe's.
Sorry,
that's okay. It's fine.
It's podcast. It's not like it's out there
fine.
forever.
You're just not artistic anymore. I said artistically, and that's been scratched. So you got like 2 more things.
Right. So if I pronounce one of these other more difficult words correctly, do I get it back?
Possibly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's what I'm going to shoot for.
Okay.
So transforming of Odysseus, Odysseus is, I guess, men into pigs. Homer's Odyssey, and I'm not even going to try. Apuleius.
I don't know. I'll let it slide because I have no idea. I would have said nope, I'm done.
Tune in next time to hear us pronounce words.
Apuleius.
Yeah, there we go. That works.
Apuleius.
Lucius becoming a donkey in The Golden Ass, which
Also, it is a dirty movie. I don't recommend Googling that.
There's a couple things you shouldn't Google at work. The Golden Ass.
Or the Golden Shower.
Don't go to whitehouse.com.
No, do not. Apparently, don't go to LouisvilleGhostHunters.com or whatever it was.
But Proteus was noted among the gods for his shape-shifting. Menelaus and Aristeus seized him to win information from him.
For that one, I'm going to give it back to you. You're
Okay,
artistically
thank
back,
you,
yeah.
thank you. Succeeded only because they held on during his various changes. Nereus told Heracles.
Heracles.
Heracles?
Mm-hmm.
Is it
That's the Greek version, is Heracles.
Okay, Heracles. So if you... I'm not gonna, never mind, I'm not going to... So, where to the apples of the Hesperides, for some reason.
Hesperides, you're all
Oh, my
you're
God.
getting it.
I just got to put all kinds of Edie's and ears and
It's Greek, man.
testicles and...
Bickus.
All right, so the Titan Metis. You gonna tell me that's wrong?
No.
Metis? I don't know. Matthias?
No, it's a woman, so
Okay.
it's Metis,
Okay.
not Metis.
Okay. The first wife of Zeus and the mother of the goddess Athena was believed to be able to change her appearance into anything she wanted. So, in one story, she was so proud that her husband Zeus tricked her into changing into a fly. He then swallowed her because he feared that he and Metis would have a son who would be more powerful than Zeus himself. Metis, however, was already pregnant. She stayed alive inside his head and built armor for her daughter. The banging of her metalwork made Zeus have a headache, so Hephaestus clove his head with an axe.
Hephaestus was the one who made all of the armor
Okay.
and the ancient tools and
Gotcha.
weapons.
Okay, so like Zeus's lightning bolt and all
Yeah,
that. Okay.
all that stuff.
Yep. So when he did that, Athena sprang from her father's head, fully grown and in battle armor.
Ready to roll.
Roll out.
This is why I will always say women are much stronger than men. We would have been like, "What's up? Can we suckle on a teeth for a while?" And women are like, "Let's go, let's fight."
Yep.
So
Let me kick some A and take some names.
kick some golden ass, man.
Yeah. So, in Greek mythology, the transformation is often a punishment from the gods to humans who cross them. So, like, Zeus transformed King Lycaon and his children into wolves, hence lycanthropy. Like,
Boy, you're on it today.
man, I tell you what, I should have ate my Wheaties or something. As a punishment for either killing Zeus's children or serving him the flesh of Lycaon's own mother. Man, I am just...
Do you want me to take over on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So Zeus transformed Lycaon and his children into wolves, hence lycanthropy, as a punishment for either killing Zeus's children or serving him the flesh of Lycaon's own murdered son, Nyctimus, depending on the exact version of the myth. And Ares assigned Electron to keep watch for the other gods during his affair with Aphrodite, but Electron fell asleep, leading to their discovery and humiliation that morning. Ares turned Electron into a rooster, which always crows to the signal of the morning.
He also turned him into a cock.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep, a big red one.
Yep. So Demeter transformed Asclepius. Okay. I mean, if anybody is around from Greco-Roman times who wants to argue with me, you can email me at fearscapepodcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
Into a lizard for mocking her sorrow, the thirst during her search for her daughter Persephone. She also turned King Lincus into a lynx.
So King Lincus into
I
a
know.
lynx. I'm
It's
like,
like-
are these where these terms came from?
Oh, I was thinking that too when I was looking this up, and I was like, well, if not, then these things are very literary, you know.
And so she did that because he tried to murder her prophet Triptolemus. So that's kind of cool. I didn't know that story.
The root of the word tryptophan.
Athena transformed Arachne into a spider for challenging her as a weaver or weaving a tapestry that insulted the gods. She also turned Nyctamene into an owl, though in this case it was an act of mercy as the girl wished to hide from the daylight out of shame from being raped by her father.
Yeah, there's and actually in a lot of these stories and things that were happen, there's a lot of raping.
Yeah, that was pretty commonplace. Hell, it still is. But especially back then, anyone with power.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean royal power.
Right, it's just power. Yeah.
Took what they wanted.
So Artemis transformed Actaeon into a stag for spying on her bathing, and he was later devoured by his own hunting dogs.
Listen, if you're going to check on any goddess, don't get the goddess of war.
Well, don't get caught, right?
I'm like, just don't do that. Galanthus was transformed into a weasel or a cat after interfering in Hera's plan to hinder the birth of Heracles.
Atalanta, which when I saw this, is it named? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not spelled the same.
Mm-mm.
But Hippopotamus.
Hippopotamus. Why does he get all the easy ones?
It's really bad because I was reading that word. That's what was going through my head, and that's what made me mess up.
Hippomenes
were turned into lions after making love in one of Zeus's temples.
Io, who the moon is named after, was a priestess of Hera in Argos. Argo is where I work, Argo Network. A nymph who was raped by Zeus, who changed her into a heifer to escape detection.
Wow. Hera punished young Tiresias by transforming him into a woman, and 7 years later, back into a man.
So the 7-year itch, right? Is that is that where that comes from, I wonder?
That's like, I don't know, to get used to being a woman and then have to just,
Well, that's a lot more fitting these days. It's very interesting. I wonder if that tale gets looked at a lot more nowadays.
Yeah.
But yeah, King Tereus, his wife Procne, and her sister Philomela were all turned into birds, a hoopoe, a swallow, and a nightingale, respectively. After Tereus raped Philomela and cut out her tongue, and in revenge, she and Procne served him the flesh of his murdered son, Eetus.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah, exactly. While the Greek gods could use transformation punitively, such as Medusa, turned into a monster for having sex with Poseidon in Athena's temple, even more frequently, the tales using it are more amorous adventures. Zeus repeatedly transformed himself to approach mortals as a means of gaining access.
Yes, he did. If you ever watch the old show Hercules, he did it all the time.
So this next kind of list is, I guess, times where the gods would turn themselves into things to get close to people. So you have Danae came as a golden shower. I'm sorry. Sorry, I got that backwards. It's a shower of gold.
Europa showed up as a bull.
Leda as a swan.
Ganymede as an eagle.
Interesting there. Sorry.
Yep. Alcmene as her husband Amphitryon.
Hera as a cuckoo.
Yep. Jared Leto as a quail. Oh, sorry, just Leto.
Yeah.
As a quail.
Io as a cloud.
Semele as a mortal shepherd.
So you've got the Nemesis.
Oh, yeah. Not Star Trek Nemesis.
Nope. The goddess of retribution, transformed into a goose to escape Zeus's advances.
Seems to be a common theme here.
Yeah. So he's a perv. But he turned into a swan. She later bore the egg in which Helen of Troy was found.
Very interesting. Vertumnus transformed himself into an old woman to gain entry to Pomona's orchard. There, he persuaded her to marry him. Orchard, I wonder if it was an apple orchard, very similar to Snow White. Interesting parallels.
Yep, interesting. As a final reward from the gods for their hospitality, Baucis and Philemon, we're going to go with that, were transformed at their deaths into a pair of trees.
Ooh. So
I wonder if those trees are still there.
That's what I was just thinking about, too. I actually heard on NPR last night this woman who did this photograph book of the oldest living organisms in the world, and she was talking about different trees, and there's some that there's one thing that she found is over 400,000 years old.
Wow.
There was something that was 33,000 years old, and it accidentally got bulldozed.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was like a moss, and they just bulldozed it.
So you've always heard you can count the rings of a tree to see its age, but how do you know the age of a tree if you don't cut?
Yeah, I know. That's the... I mean, I guess they can figure it out. I don't
carbon
know.
dating, maybe?
But sometimes metamorphoses transformed objects into humans. In the myths of both Jason and Cadmus, one task set to the hero was to sow dragon's teeth. On being sown, they would metamorphose into belligerent warriors, and both heroes had to throw a rock to trick them into fighting each other to survive.
Yeah. So, dragon teeth, the whole sewing of dragon teeth is actually a really interesting story if you read the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So, Deucalion and Pyra repopulated the world after a flood. Interesting there, that's a flood.
We did talk about the Ark earlier. So.
Yeah. By throwing stones behind them, they were transformed into people.
Mm-hmm. Cadmus is also often known to have transformed into a dragon or serpent towards the end of his life.
And Pygmalion fell in love with Galete, a statue he had made. Aphrodite had pity on him and transformed the stone into a living person.
Isn't there a movie called Lars and the Real Girl or something like that? And it was about a guy that had a sex doll that he just had a real relationship with. Or Mannequin. We could talk about the movie Mannequin, too.
Right,
yeah. Ooh, so now we can get into British and Irish stuff.
Yep.
That's the stuff I'm very familiar with.
Yeah, so in the British and Irish, you basically have fairies, witches, and wizards.
Oh, my!
Which would make a really good shop or something. Fairies, witches, and wizards.
Oh, my.
Were all noted for their shape-shifting ability. Not all fairies could shapeshift, and some were limited to changing their size, as with the Spriggans, and others to a few forms, and other fairies might have only the appearance of shapeshifting through their power, called glamour. To create illusions.
Yep, I've practiced a little glamoury back in my early days of paganism. Thought it kind of worked.
Huh. Well, maybe that's the whole idea behind glamour shots.
Oh boy, people still do those, by the way. That cowboy hat and the puffed up hair does not make you look cute.
So there's this, I guess a Headley cow. Could change to many forms, and both human and supernatural wizards were capable of both such changes and inflicting them on others.
Yeah, that's where you turned me into a newt! That's where that whole idea comes from.
Yeah. Witches could turn into hares, and in that form still milk and butter. Many British fairy tales, such as Jack the Giant Killer and the Black Bull of Norway, feature shapeshifting.
Yep. So do.
Celtic mythology. You want to take some of this?
Yeah. So Pwyll was transformed into Aron, and this was into Aron's own shape, and Aron transformed himself into Pwyll's shape so that they could trade places for a year and a day. So it's like that movie Vice Versa with Judge Reinhold and what's his name from Little Monsters? Fred Savage.
Yeah,
Freaky Friday. Yeah, Freaky Friday too. I was a boy. I liked the other one I said. Luid ap Kilquad transformed his wife and attendants into mice to attack a crop in revenge. When his wife is captured, he turned himself into 3 clergymen in succession to try to pay a ransom. Mm-hmm. And Mathfab, Mathwanui, and Gwydion transform flowers into a woman named Blaudwed, and when she betrays her husband, Lulog Jeffs, who is transformed into an eagle, they transform her again into an owl. And so, yeah, I guess I'd rather be an owl. I mean, an eagle than an owl. But
yeah, I mean, they both eat mice, I guess.
Yep. Gilfathway committed rape with the help of his brother Gwydion. Both were transformed into animals for 1 year each. Should have been forever, in my opinion.
Yep.
Gwydion was transformed into a stag, sow, and wolf, and the other one was transformed into a hind boar and a she-wolf. Each year they had a child. Math turned the 3 young animals into boys.
So that word there, math, that's from the line above, the math fab
Oh,
Mathemate.
yep. Sorry.
Yep,
So yeah,
so-
Mothfob Muberber turned the 3 young animals into boys, and Gwion, not to be confused with Gwar, having accidentally taken some of the wisdom potion that Cyrodiil was brewing for his son, fled from her through a succession of changes that she answered with changes of her own, ending with his being eaten, a grain of corn by her as a hen. She became pregnant, and he was reborn in a new form, Talisian.
Very interesting. So the Scottish mythology features shapeshifters, which allows the various creatures to trick, deceive, hunt, and kill humans. Water spirits such as the usage, which inhabit lochs and waterways in Scotland, were said to appear as a horse or young man. Other tales include kelpies who emerge from lochs and rivers in the disguise of a horse or a woman in order to ensnare and kill wary travelers.
Yep.
Tam Lin, a man captured by the Queen of the Fairies,
Tatiana.
is changed into a manner of beast before being rescued. So she was just messing with him. He finally turned into a burning coal and was thrown into a well, whereupon he reappeared in his human form. Perhaps the best known Irish myth is that of Iofi, who turned her stepchildren, the children of Lear,
Into swans.
swans.
Yes, it's a very, very famous myth.
to be rid of them.
Yeah.
Likewise, in the Tokmark, Etain, Fomanak,
Boy, if you say all that fast, it sounds Klingon. Takmak itan fumnak.
yeah, jealousy turns Atan into a butterfly. I don't know where that last little accent.
I liked it though.
Yeah. The puka.
Oh, the puka.
Yeah. Puka.
This is like if you've Pikachu that's where the name came from, but Harvey, the movie Harvey.
Yep.
Oh, Harvey is the puka.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a Celtic fairy and also a deaf shapeshifter. He can transform into many different terrifying forms.
Like a rabbit.
A 6-foot rabbit.
Yep, a 6-foot rabbit.
This has got
That's
too
a
many
lot of consonants.
Sadabab. I don't know, that's what I'm going
That's
to go
good.
with.
Cybok.
The wife of the famous hero Fionn Mac Cumhall was changed into a deer by the druid Ferdoich when she spurned his amorous interest.
Very nice. So next we move into Norse mythology, okay? So, which I love. I mean, you know, we're all familiar with Thor now.
Oh, yeah.
So Norse is having a resurgence due to Thor and Neil Gaiman's book on Norse mythology. But in the Lokasenna, Odin and Loki taught each other with having taken the form of females and nursing offspring to which they had given birth, which is a very interesting notion that they essentially were able to know a woman's plight. Because they became women and gave birth, and
Right.
then they knew and nursed the children and everything. A 13th century Edda relates Loki taking the form of a mare to bear Odin's steed, Sleipnir, which was the fastest horse ever to exist, and also the form of a she-wolf to bear Fenrir, which brings upon the end of the world.
Right.
Ragnarok.
What's really interesting, a lot of people don't know this, is Loki, despite how he's depicted as the brother of Thor, is actually the brother of Odin.
Yeah. I mean, it all gets messed up in the gods' worlds anyways.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
be honest.
yeah.
Let's see. Svipdagar angered Odin, who turned him into a dragon. In the Hindaluju, Freya transformed her protege, Otar, into a boar to conceal him. She also possessed a cloak of falcon feathers that allowed her to transform into a falcon, which Loki borrowed on occasion. Not
Yep.
surprised.
The Volasunga saga contains many shape-shifting characters. Siggeir's mother changed into a wolf to help torture his defeated brothers-in-law with slow and ignominious deaths. When one Sigmund survived, he and his nephew and son Senfoltigil, I don't know, Scandinavian, killed men wearing wolf skins. When they donned the skins themselves, they were cursed to become werewolves. The dwarf Anvari is described as being able to magically turn into a pike, which how is that helpful?
Yeah.
I'm turning myself into a big stick.
Well, I mean, it's like, I immediately thought of the fish pike.
Oh. Maybe,
So, could be a fish.
yeah, I guess that could be. If it was just a big
stick.
that's
I'm going to hide here.
it's the sharp on one end.
I mean, if it reminds me, the way you're thinking about it reminds me of the Wonder Twins on Super Friends. It's like, shape of bucket of water. Like, what good are you? Like,
yeah, so that makes more sense to be a fish. Thanks,
yes.
thanks for that.
You're welcome.
So yeah, but in all the variants, he transformed into a dragon, a symbol of greed. While guarding his ill-gotten hoard, his brother Otter enjoyed spending time as an otter. Go figure.
Yeah.
I am Otter. I like to be an otter. Yeah. Which led to his accidental slaying by Loki.
Oops. And then over in Scandinavia, there existed, for example, the famous race of she-werewolves known with the name of Maras, women who took on the appearance of the night, looking for huge half-human and half-wolf monsters.
So then you have the Gunhild, Mother of Kings. This actually gives us a time frame. It's 910 to 980 circa. Was a quasi-historical figure who appears in the Icelandic sagas, according to which she was the wife of Eric Bloodaxe, was credited with magic powers, including the power of shapeshifting and turning at will into a bird.
Wow. So it looks like we've got some other shorter ones. So here we've got Armenian lore. In Armenian mythology, shapeshifters included the Nang, a serpentine river monster that can transform itself into a woman or a seal and will drown humans and then drink their blood, or the beneficial Shahapet, a guardian spirit that can appear either as a man or a snake. And boy, that Nang is creepy. I want to see a movie about that.
Yeah, that would be crazy. So we have Indian, not Native American, just for anybody who's...
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So ancient Indian mythology tells of Naga, snakes that can sometimes assume human form. Scriptures describe shape-shifting Rakshasa, or demons, assuming animal forms to deceive humans. The Ramayana also includes the Vanara, a group of ape-like humanoids who possessed supernatural powers and could change their shapes.
And good God, could we spend 4 episodes on Hindu gods and the shape-shifting that they have done. It's... Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I was thinking of Naga, the snakes that sometimes assume human form. I'm like, was that the Cobra Commander from G.I. Joe?
Yeah,
was
right.
Serpentor?
Right,
Remember
Serpentor? Yeah.
Anyways, in the Philippines, their mythology includes the aswang, a vampiric monster capable of transforming into a bat, a large black dog, a black cat, a black boar, or some other form in order to stalk humans at night, which is very similar to a lot of the stuff that we know.
Yep.
It also talks about the Capra, which is the Tikabalo, and the Encanto, which change their appearances to woo beautiful maidens. Also, talismans called Anting or Bertud in the local dialect can give their owners the ability to shapeshift. In fact, in one tale, Changuita, the monkey wife, a woman is turned into a monkey, only becoming human again if she can marry a handsome man. So it's like the opposite of Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's Handsome and the Beast. Handsome and the monkey.
In Tatar folklore, you got the Yuxa, a 100-year-old snake that can transform itself into a beautiful young woman and seeks to marry men in order to have children.
Don't trust snakes is the moral of the story here. Chinese, let's see, we talked about this briefly for a second. In China, there's mythology that talks about the Huli Jing, a fox spirit which usually appears as a beautiful young woman. Most of them are dangerous, but some feature as the heroines of love stories. Madam White Snake is one such legend. A snake falls in love with a man, and the story recounts the trials that she and her husband faced.
So in Japanese lore, you have the Obaki, or a type of yokai with the ability to shapeshift. The fox, or kitsune, is among the most commonly known, but other such creatures include the bakanako and the majuni. and the tanuki.
We know Tanuki from Mario 3. That's the Tanuki suit. It's a raccoon. And Baka Neko, I don't know what Baka stands for, but I know Neko is cat. It stands for cat, so it's some sort of cat.
Cat, yeah.
In Korean mythology, there also is a myth that contains a fox with the ability to shapeshift. They are definitely... Foxes are definitely known to do so. Unlike its Chinese and Japanese counterparts, the kumiho is always malevolent. Usually its form is of a beautiful young woman. One tale recounts a man, a would-be seducer, revealed as a kumiho, and the kumiho has 9 tails, and as she desires to be a full human, she uses her beauty to seduce men and eat their hearts, or in some cases, livers, where the belief is that of 100 livers would turn her into a real human. And if you play Pokemon, one of the Pokemon on there, I can't think of the one, when it evolves into that where it's got the 6 or the 9 tails, the fox with the 9 tails.
So I wonder if the cat of 9 tails, which is like a whip or whatever. I wonder if that has anything to do.
It might. It absolutely might.
Yeah.
I mean, foxes get confused for cats all the time.
In Somalia mythology, Kori Ismaris, which basically translates into one who rubs himself with a stick.
We'll see if that guy can turn himself into a stick. Perfect opportunity.
Was a man who could transform himself into a hyena man by rubbing himself with a magic stick at nightfall, and by repeating this process could return to his human state before dawn.
Wow. And then we're moving now into South America. We've got the Nahule. It signifies a man who by sorcery has been transformed into a puma or jaguar.
Which a lot of that southern American, South American countries and peoples are really, the jaguar or the puma is just a very powerful deity. I don't know, so... And then in the Trinidad and Tobago area, we have the Legahu or Loopgaroo. Loopgaroo is the shapeshifter of Trinidad and Tobago's folklore. The unique ability is believed to be handed down in some old Creole families and is usually associated with witch doctors and practitioners of African magic.
Very, very cool. And then, of course, let's talk about Native American.
Yep. So Native American is... you basically have Navajo witches, including skinwalkers, represent the antithesis of Navajo cultural values. While community healers and cultural workers are known as medicine men and women, or by terms in the local indigenous language, witches are seen as evil, performing twisted ceremonies and manipulating magic in a perversion of the good works medicine people traditionally perform. In order to practice their good works, traditional healers learn about both good and evil magic. Most can handle the responsibility, but some people can become corrupt and choose to become witches. Animals associated with witchcraft usually includes tricksters, such as the coyote, but can include other creatures, usually those associated with death or bad omens. They may also possess living animals or people and walk around in their bodies by locking eyes with them.
I got a friend that never looks you in the eye. That must be why.
Skinwalkers may be male or female. So, like I said, I didn't get a whole lot into the to the Skinwalker Ranch stuff, which is
no, please don't. That's a whole
episode. But what's really interesting is where you can find a lot of detail around folklore for a bunch of different Native American tribes. The Navajo are very, reserved in what they let get out. Like if you're not Navajo, you don't need to know.
Dene, as they call themselves.
Yeah, you don't need to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was really, what I found was sparse, and then when I tried to find other stuff, I just pretty much found a repetition of what I had already found. So there's just, they're not very open about their belief system if you're not part of their
And, well, even people today, there's stories they don't want to share.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether it be, in fact, some of the people that I talk to about getting listener stories, which we'll move into here in just a second, I got a long one. So they sometimes, when I ask them, are like, no, please, I'm not comfortable with that. They like being in the comfortable environment of the group that we're in, but not in a public setting. And I get that.
I do, yeah.
Not
I mean,
everybody.
even if there's some anonymity, it's still the fact that you may have told someone else your story. Mm-hmm. They hear it on here. They think,
yep.
it's
or you're talking about an area of Kentucky that it can be easily
identified.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Shapeshifters are interesting, man, and we haven't even scratched the surface on the shapeshifters. And I love that we talked about animals that shapeshift as well as humans that can shapeshift. And we didn't even touch on aliens shapeshifting.
Right. Well, that's like a whole different segment.
Yeah, that's definitely a whole nother kit and caboodle. But yeah, like I said, moving into the listener story, because I want to get into this, is a long one. It's a really, really interesting one. And this comes from, again, the Haunted History of Kentucky. Thank you guys so much for being so willing.
Yeah, this is awesome.
This comes from Wanda Kenley. This is actually one of 2 stories that she has, but I'm only going to share one today. But yeah, this one comes from Wanda Kenley, and take a listen. It was in 1984, and I was living in a 2-story house on East Main Street in Richmond, Kentucky. My 5-year-old daughter had a bedroom downstairs. The upstairs had a large bedroom for me and my husband, with a smaller bedroom for the baby. The view from my bedroom window was unique. It was an abandoned funeral home. It was a 2-story clapboard house with paint peeling. There was a double-wide window without any glass or frame, just a big square hole. By night, it was just a big black hole. During the day, you could see right in. The upstairs of the building was full of old coffins. It was a decent house. The rent wasn't bad. The yard was small, but so were our kids. To think that the funeral home next door would cause this house to be haunted is absolutely ridiculous. Crazy, right? I mean, that's what I thought, but then things started to happen. Just little things at first. And then it escalated. First, it was a Friday night, about 8 p.m., and the kids were playing in my daughter's room. I was watching TV and crocheting on the sofa, and suddenly the room filled with the smell of vinegar. It lasted about 10 minutes, and then it was gone. That same night at about 11 p.m., it happened again. This time, though, the room filled with the aroma of roses. Now, this only lasted about 10 minutes, and this happened several more times. In fact, it started to become a Friday night routine for a while. One morning, I had my wisdom teeth extracted. I was hurting a little bit, so I went upstairs to lay down for a while. My husband and his buddy were watching TV and keeping an eye on the kids. I hadn't been in bed even 10 minutes before these 2 things came rolling out of my baby boy's room and under my bed. I don't know what they were. They were a little smaller than a basketball, and yet they were covered with fur. I jumped up and stood in the middle of my bed screaming. My husband and his friend both ran up the stairs. I told them what was happening, and they looked under the bed, and my husband said, "There's nothing there. You must have been hallucinating." But it wasn't. About a year later, we were visiting with a cousin who had moved to a house on 4 Mile. He said that he was watching TV one night, and these 2 fuzzy ball things rolled underneath the couch. He moved the couch out, and yet there was nothing there. He then went on to say that he sees them all the time at night rolling around in his backyard. Have you ever even heard of such a thing? Do you know what it is? Because I don't. And that was the only time I ever saw it. In this house, there was a closed stairway that went up to my room. I had started having dreams that took place in this stairway. I was standing at the bottom of the stairs looking up. There was a beautiful lady at the top of the stairs. She had long, black, shiny hair and was wearing a flowing white gown. I had this dream for 3 nights in a row. I told my husband that I wanted to move out of the house, and he said no, I was just being silly. A few nights later, another dream happened in the steps. This time I was at the bottom, looking up at the beautiful lady again. And her feet lifted from the floor this time. Her hair frizzed out, her teeth got pointed, and her gown was ragged. She floated down the stairs very quickly, and she screamed so loud it hurt my ears.
Get out of my house!
I wanted out of that house so bad. The rent was cheap, so he didn't want to leave. I prayed about it, and soon my prayers were answered. The rent man showed up and said he sold the house, and that we would have to leave because the new owners were going to live in it. And to that, I simply said thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, that was just one house. I mean,
The furry things on
that sounded to me like Critters, if you ever saw Critters.
Yeah.
But it makes me, anything that is a monster movie, I'm always wondered, where did they get that idea from?
Right.
Like, is it something they took from mythology? Is it a nightmare that they had?
Right.
Much like Stephen King a lot of does, and Wes Craven both had nightmares, and they said, oh, these would be great stories. But absolutely frightening, especially the woman in white. I mean, we had just talked about Brad seeing a woman in white. And there have been one or two times where the woman in white was frightening to him, was scary, and so that's exactly what that reminded me.
It's like
of.
this is the scene in Ghostbusters in the library.
Yes.
Where she's like standing there, shh, and then she just totally freaks out.
Yeah, and so it's the same scene in Ghostbusters. Later on, another scene is when, Dan Aykroyd, Ray, is laying in bed and that ghost comes up and hooks up with him. But I'm waiting for her to flip out like the librarian ghost did and bite him or something. I don't know.
But yeah, that's just that's something that I have never. I've had eerie feelings, and I have I don't know, just like something's there, but I can't put my finger on it. But I've never really had any type of really, I don't know, experience like that. It's just
I wouldn't be surprised with your mind opening up the way it has since you became co-host. That you may in the future experience something a little bit more. I mean, some of her stuff were dreams, and some of your dreams have been very frightening in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, her story was absolutely frightening. And once again, here's someone who just does not believe.
Yeah.
And, is more concerned with money than, the welfare of a person. And thank you. I'm so glad that her prayer was answered.
Yeah.
That she could get out of there, because obviously she was, and I'm sure that's probably only a few stories that she's got in that house. And
and how was that affecting her mood,
her
and
children,
her stress level, and her children,
everything, and then to have other people experiencing it too, and just things like that. I just want to say to you, you are very, very brave.
Yeah, that was.
And thank you so much for sharing that
thank
story
you for sharing
with us.
that. That's great.
And as usual, guys, you can send in your listener stories. There's many ways you can do it. You can send it to fearscapepodcast@gmail.com. Just write it out, even if it's a couple sentences or a paragraph, or, say, here it is. If you want to clean it up, whatever you want us to do. You could also, find me if I... any of the posts that we post about our podcast or anything like that, you can always leave a story there, or simply just leave a story on FearScape Facebook page, Twitter.
Direct message us and Facebook, Twitter,
all
Instagram.
Of that stuff. You can also record yourself. We haven't had a person be recorded in a while.
Yep.
So yeah, you can record yourself and send those in as well, and we'll play your voice. And I can even modulate it for you if you still want to remain anonymous. Send those in. We can set up a Google Drive link, whatever we need to do to get those stories. We love them. We want to believe you.
Right.
So yeah, please send in those listener stories to us. In ways you can find us, like we said, Facebook, we are there, FearScape Pod. Instagram, FearScape Pod. Twitter, FearScape Pod. We are there. Those are social media areas you can find us.
Yep. And just make sure that you follow us there. Like us, whatever the social media nomenclature is for how you keep in touch with what we have going on, because we post a new episode every week, and we're all the time sharing stuff. We're all the time sharing stories that we find out there.
Yeah, we don't share all the news stories we find on Spooky News. We share them on the social media as well.
Right. So if you like what you hear on here, you might like what you see on one of our social media platforms.
Absolutely. So yeah, make sure to listen. Also, if you get an opportunity, if the platform that you're listening has the ability to rate and review, please help us by rating and reviewing our show. It helps our podcast get seen a lot more, especially on platforms like Stitcher and Apple Podcasts and things like that. And share it. Share it and let people know, because we got a lot of cool information, and
Yep.
we want to share it with people.
And just make sure that you also, subscribe to whatever that, so you follow us, you hear, you'll get notification whenever the new episode drops, and that way you can always have us fresh and ready to go.
Yep. And so public service announcement is over.
Yep.
But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We love you guys so much. You are our blanket huggers, our fan base. We love you guys so much. But we're going to go ahead and get out of here. So go eat your dinner, do whatever you got to do. And we will catch you next week. And so this has been Stefan. I will catch you on the flip side.
This has been Josh. The truth is out there.
All right. Remember, folks, hold those blankets extra tight. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
I'm so glad you were able to join us for that horrifying discussion. I hope they didn't frighten you too much. Tune in next week for even more research into the nightmarish and haunting creeps and spooks that we tell ourselves don't exist, but we know they do. Make sure you have your blankets, that you hold them extra tight. Next time on FearScape.